You don't learn slowly because you are less intelligent. You learn slowly because nobody ever showed you how learning actually works on the inside. And that difference between knowing the mechanism and not knowing it is what separates people who learn in ordinary ways from people who learn so fast it feels almost unfair to everyone around them. 7 habits, practical, direct, and when you start using all of them together, you will understand why most people never get anywhere close to their real potential. Let's begin. First, decide what you are not going to learn before you start. The brain does not process volume well, it processes depth well. When attention is divided between 10 things at the same time, each one receives a tenth of what it would need to actually stick. The practical habit is this. Before any study session, ask one question. Which part of this content actually changes something for me? Identify that part, study only that with complete attention. The rest can be discarded or left for later. It feels counterintuitive to reduce what you are going to study, but the learning that stays is almost always the learning that was chosen, not the learning that was accumulated. Second, always connect the new to what you already know. The brain stores knowledge in networks. Every new idea needs to connect to something that already exists to have somewhere to anchor. When you learn something completely disconnected, it passes through. It leaves a shallow impression for a few days and disappears without leaving structure. The practical habit is every time you encounter a new concept, stop and ask, where have I seen something like this before? It could be in a completely different area, in a personal experience, in an everyday metaphor. When you find that connection, the new concept has somewhere to anchor, and what has somewhere to anchor stays. Third, when it gets difficult, don't stop. That is exactly where the learning happens. Most people interpret difficulty as a sign that something is wrong. Neuroscience discovered the opposite. The more the mind works to produce an answer before receiving it ready-made, the more permanent what was learned becomes. The practical habit is when you get stuck on a difficult idea, stay with it for at least 2 minutes before looking for the answer. Try to solve it. Try to explain to yourself what you already understand and where the gap is. Those 2 minutes of struggle produce more retention than an hour of passive reading of the same content. Difficulty is not the obstacle, it is the method. Fourth, test what you learned immediately, not at the end. The most common study structure is to absorb for weeks and test at the end. That is an enormous waste of time and effort. You discover the gaps when it is already too late to fix them easily. The practical habit is learn one concept, close the material, try to reproduce what you learned, write it, say it out loud, draw it. See what actually stayed and what seemed to stay but did not. Fix it now while the gap is still small. Then move to the next concept and repeat. Short cycles of learning and verifying produce far more than long cycles of accumulating and testing. The difference is not in the hours invested, it is in the honesty of checking what went in instead of assuming it went in because it was read. Fifth, explain what you learned as if you were going to teach it. There is an enormous difference between recognizing an idea when you see it and being able to reconstruct it from scratch in your own words. Recognition is passive, mastery is active, and mastery only appears when you try to produce the knowledge instead of just receiving it. The practical habit is after studying anything, try to explain it out loud as if you were teaching someone who has never heard of it. Not the concept itself, the structure behind it, why it works, where it fails, how it connects to what existed before. Explain it to the wall if you have to a friend, to yourself in the mirror. What gets stuck in that explanation is exactly what you have not actually learned yet. And the act of trying, even when it is imperfect, reorganizes the knowledge in a way that no amount of reading can replicate. Sixth, rest intentionally. The learning continues during rest. Learning happens in 2 distinct moments. The first is when you are with the material,
exposing the mind to the new. The second is when you stop and the brain works on its own to consolidate what was received. During rest, the brain internally replays what was learned, forms connections that were not formed during study, and fixes into deeper structures what would otherwise be temporary. Research shows that a 10-second pause after an intense block of study can cause the brain to replay the learned sequence up to 20 times at accelerated speed. The practical habit has 3 levels. Micro: after every intense block of study, stop for 10 to 20 seconds and do nothing. No checking the phone, no switching tasks, just stop. Medium: after 90 minutes of focused study, rest for 20 minutes for real. Don't switch subjects, don't open another tab, rest. Macro: sleep well. It is during sleep that the brain consolidates the entire day's learning, eliminating what is not essential and fixing what matters. Cutting rest to study more does not accelerate learning. It removes the second half of the process, the part where what was studied becomes permanent. 7th, measure your progress against who you were, not against who others are. This is the habit that determines whether the other 6 will last or not. When you measure your learning by comparing yourself to other people, you enter a cycle that has no end and no direction. There will always be someone who arrived earlier, who started from a more favorable position, who has more time or more resources. That comparison produces anxiety, but does not produce progress. The only measure that works is this: do you understand something today that you didn't understand yesterday? The step was small or large, it doesn't matter. If the answer is yes, the learning is happening in the right direction. The practical habit is at the end of every study session, write one sentence, one thing you understand now that you didn't understand before you began, just one. This anchors real progress instead of leaving it invisible, and visible progress is what maintains consistency when motivation fades. 7 habits. None of them require special talent. None of them require more time than you already have. What they require is intention, the conscious decision to learn differently instead of just learning more. And when that intention becomes consistent, something happens that has no other word to describe it. It feels unfair to you and to everyone around you who is still learning the old way. Write in the comments which of the 7 you are going to start tomorrow, not today. Tomorrow, because today you are still going to do it the old way. And when you are ready for the next level, the next video is already there.